Welcome to MojoPlays. Today, we're looking at why Google Stadia is a failure. Is cloud gaming really the future?
Free your mind at the one place for all the ways we play, Stadia!
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
In 2019, Google finally launched its much-anticipated flagship gaming platform, Stadia. Stadia was a bold initiative, a way to stream games over the cloud that were running on an expensive, powerful PC somewhere else entirely. Gone was the costly entry into gaming. With Stadia, no console was required. But it didn't quite go to plan, thanks in no small part to Google's absolutely terrible marketing at launch. It was difficult to tell exactly what you needed to buy to take advantage of Stadia, with Google announcing the Founders Edition that included the controller but also required you to pay a monthly subscription and then buy your games on top, often for far more than they cost on other platforms. As of 2021, Stadia's free base version has launched, which doesn't require you to buy anything except the game you want to play. No controller, no Chromecast, and no subscription, provided you're happy to play on your computer rather than casting to your TV. But Stadia still hasn't taken off despite some games, such as Cyberpunk 2077, actually running surprisingly well on Stadia compared to most consoles. With such a promising idea, where did Stadia truly go so wrong?
Forget boxes, forget consoles, just your games, your screens, and electric air. And this electric air is Stadia.
Easily the biggest problem facing Stadia is that the infrastructure just isn't there yet. Cloud gaming might be possible and it's almost certainly the future, but very few people in the world can truly take advantage of this technology at the moment. In fact, roughly half the population of the entire world doesn't have internet access, let alone internet fast enough to make Stadia a viable option. And even in places where the cabling does exist, high-speed internet is incredibly expensive and not something the majority of people even need. The most visited websites in the world are Google itself, YouTube, and Facebook. None of them are sites that require a particularly powerful internet connection most of the time. And even people who do have high-speed connections reported a poor performance from Stadia when it was released, with latency so severe it can make games like Mortal Kombat and Thumper, which rely on fast reaction times, totally unplayable. Over a year later, Stadia still has issues with latency, particularly if you play it using a Chromecast.
Just use a Chromecast Ultra and a Stadia controller, and you're good to go.
But Stadia's entire business model raises yet more questions about exactly which customers Google is trying to court. In theory, you can stream a AAA video game in 4K, which requires you to have both a 4K display and a very fast and expensive internet connection. But this begs the question, who has a 4K display, ultra-fast internet, and isn't already using those things for gaming on either a PC or a console? It seems that the market for Stadia doesn't yet exist and won't exist until cloud gaming becomes more popular and widespread. But of course, it's not going to become popular and widespread when nobody is buying it, because it doesn't perform as promised, and they certainly aren't investing in ultra-fast internet and 4K screens just to use Google Stadia, the whole point of which is that it's cheaper than its rivals.
Up to 4K resolution and 60 frames per second with high dynamic range colors.
And there's also the fact that Google Stadia has no exclusives. Platform exclusives are the biggest thing game companies have to drive players to their platform in particular, but Google has severely dropped the ball where exclusives are concerned. In early 2021, it was announced that Google was going to shutter Stadia's game studios before they produced a single title, betraying their lack of faith in their own device. Instead of funding smaller independent studios to make exclusives for Stadia, Google spent huge amounts of money getting AAA games like Red Dead 2, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Cyberpunk onto the platform. That money would have been much better spent contracting existing studios who already know what they're doing to make something special for Stadia. It's a crying shame that Google gave up on actual game development so easily, with 150 game development jobs lost at Stadia in the process. Google has a poor track record where new endeavors like Stadia are concerned too, often closing down promising ideas without really giving them a chance to breathe. This fear that Stadia will quickly disappear completely is making many people reluctant to spend money on it at all. Sure, you can buy Cyberpunk and play it without coughing up for expensive, limited next-gen hardware, but will you still be able to play it in a year or two? If Stadia goes offline, will all the money people spent on Stadia games be lost? It's understandable that people don't want to take the risk.
I'm also thrilled to announce that today we are forming Stadia Games and Entertainment, which will build experiences designed exclusively for Stadia as Google's own first-party game studio.
But Stadia isn't a total failure. For starters, it does have the lowest entry point into next-gen gaming, even compared to the competitively priced Xbox Series S. All you really need is a decent compatible phone or a computer capable of running Google Chrome, which is basically all of them. You don't need the Chromecast Ultra if you don't want to stream to your TV, and most controllers are compatible, meaning that if you already have a controller, even one as old as the Xbox 360 controller, you can just play. And it's even easier if you prefer to use a keyboard and mouse. The problem is that Google's marketing for Stadia has been disastrous. The fact that you can jump into Stadia and only pay the price of a single game, which could be as little as $0 for a free-to-play title like Destiny 2, without having to commit to the Pro subscription or buy the unappealing controller, should be the focus of Stadia's marketing. Though, you do need to buy a Pro subscription if you want to stream in 4K.
Stadia Pro is our premium subscription. It gives you up to 4K resolution with 5.1 surround sound.
And for all Google's problems, the company is still thinking ahead. Cloud gaming using a Netflix-like subscription model is going to be the future, and all we're waiting on is the internet infrastructure to catch up. But Stadia is still not quite as good as its competitors. Sony's PS Now is available on PlayStation and PC and boasts an enormous library of games, while Xbox's Project xCloud looks promising as well. And using the success of Twitch as a jumping-off point, Amazon has come out with Luna. Even Nvidia is providing a game streaming service for PC users. Stadia is a good idea in theory, but the execution is all wrong, and our technology just isn't at the state where it can replace console or PC gaming. And that's why for now, Stadia is, unfortunately, a failure.
Head to Stadia.com right now and get started with your free month trial of Stadia Pro.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.